Hey you guys, my name is Barbara and I am back with another video. It's coming from the Bible scriptures, Joshua chapter 6, 1 through 27. I just decided to read the whole thing because this is going to be kind of like a Bible study. And the point that I'm trying to prove is that this one example, there's many of them in the Bible, but this one example proves that God shows, proves, and keeps his promises. Okay. He will go to whatever extent it takes just to get his point across and to make sure that he keeps his promises to you. Then it's just up to you to keep your end of the covenant, which is what we see here in this part of the Bible with the Israelites. So it says the fall of Jericho. Now Jericho was shut up. First of all, let me just explain real quick. Jericho is a city in their land. It's as the first city to be taken in Canaan. Jericho was to be completely dedicated to the Lord as a kind of symbolic first fruits. The people of Israel were to take no goods and were to leave no survivors. Okay, so this is the story of when this happens. Now Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand with its king and mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all the men of war going around the city once. Thus shall you do for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and priests shall blow the trumpets. And when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, then all the people shall shout with great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, everyone straight before him." So Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord." And he said to the people, "Go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass on before the ark of the Lord." And just as Joshua had commanded the people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Lord went forward blowing the trumpets, with the ark of the covenant of the Lord following them. And this is like their promise, their covenant that they made with God. That's what the ark of the covenant is. The armed men were of the Lord following them. The armed men were walking before the priests who were blowing the trumpets, and the rear guard was walking after the ark while the trumpets blew continually. But Joshua commanded the people, "You shall not shout or make your voice heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout." So he caused the ark of the Lord to circle the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp and spent the night in the camp. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord, and the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord walked on, and they blew the trumpets continually, and the armed men were walking before them, and the rear guard was walking at the ark of the Lord after the ark of the Lord while the trumpets blew continually. And the 2nd day they marched around the city once and returned into the camp. So they did this for 6 days. On the 7th day they rose early at the dawn of the day and marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. It was only on that day that they marched around the 7 city times. It was only on that day that they marched around the city 7 times. And at the 7th time, the priests had blown the trumpets. Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city, and the city and all that is within it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in the house shall live, because she hid the messengers whom we sent." Now, this lady was a prostitute, and goes to show you that God will even keep covenants or promises, or he'll keep his word even when it comes down to someone who most people in society would look down upon. Okay, he loves all of us. All right. But that's who Rahab was. She was a prostitute, and all the people that were in her house, they shall live, because she is the one who hid the messengers whom we sent. So she hid the messengers of Israel. "But you keep yourselves from the things devoted to destruction. I think the people that she hid, they came to like look around, and so they were kind of like spying, or they probably weren't supposed to be there, and so she was hiding them. Okay. But you keep yourselves from the things devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing of destruction and bring trouble upon it. But all silver and gold and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. As soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout, and the wall fell down flat. So that the people went up into the city. So they shouted and they knocked that wall over. Okay. And then they marched up in there, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. So they took the city. The Israelites took the city from the Canaanites, and this was all by God's hand. Okay. Because he was keeping his promise. And remember, when God asks for something, he wants the first fruits. He wants the best of the best. And that's kind of like what this city Jericho was. Okay. And he delivered it unto Israel because that was what he promised. So then they devoted all in the city to destruction, both men and women, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkeys, with the edge of the sword. But to the men who had spied out the land, Joshua said, go into the prostitute's house and bring out from there the woman and all who belong to her, as you swore to her. So the young men who had spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and mother and brothers and all who belonged to her. And they brought all her relatives and put them outside of the camp of Israel. And they burned the city with fire and everything in it. Only the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. But Rahab the prostitute and her father's household and all who belonged to her, Joshua saved alive. So he kept them alive. He did not burn them. Okay. And she has lived in Israel to this day because she hid the messengers from Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Yes. So Joshua laid an oath on them at that time, saying, cursed before the Lord be the man who rise up and rebuilds this city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn shall he lay its foundation, and at the cost of his youngest son shall he set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all of the land. Okay, so Israel defeated them. And then right after that, it's funny because it says Israel defeated AI. And we know that AI, like the AI that we see today, is coming up against the children of Israel, taking, our jobs and all that stuff. And not just us, but all of God's children. Okay. All who God created could be taken, and nobody's safe. All right. But anyway, the point of me reading this was to show you that God will do whatever he has to do. Because in this story, some people say, like, why would God kill or allow innocent people to be killed by the Israelites? And technically they were not innocent because they knew of God. They knew of him, and God wouldn't allow it because God is a just God. So he wouldn't allow it if there were still people in the city who were safe. But these people were not safe, and that's why the Israelites were instructed to get rid of everyone. Do not leave anyone alive. And that was animals, kids, women, everybody had to go. The men, of course, but everyone was to be gone. And that was the instructions. And we saw later on that they didn't follow the instructions, and they ended up getting into more and more trouble later on down the line. But I'm just trying to show you that we're not talking about us not being able to keep our promises. We're talking about God being able to keep his promises. And as we see, God will curse the land, destroy the people, do whatever he has to do in order to fulfill his promises for his own children. Okay. And his children, when I say that, I'm talking about the children of Israel, and I'm talking about his adopted children as well. All of us are open to having our salvation, but it's just, do you want that? Because really it's people who are rejecting God. It's not God rejecting these people. So the reason why I like the Bible is because it shows us how God reacts to situations regarding our ancestors from the Bible. We can learn like what he likes, what he rejects, what he doesn't like, what makes him happy, what makes him angry, what pleases him, and stuff like that. And then we can adjust our behaviors to carry out his will. But as long as you're carrying out his will, and you will know what promises that he has for you, that he wants to fulfill for you, and you will know what you need to do on your end, because we all struggle with something. So, and we all try to clean ourselves up, and we look at it like cleaning ourselves up in order to get our promises, because why would God just give you all these promises if you're not keeping up with what you need to do, your end of the bargain, which is what we see in here. Like, we're not talking about works as far as salvation and all that. We're talking about works in order to be upgraded in your life. Works is, is faith is dead without works, so you still have to put in the work. But yeah, this is me just trying to prove to you how God will destroy a whole nation of people just to make sure that he keeps his word, keep his covenant with his children. These people, a lot of people, they're wondering, like, why were the Israelites chosen? And it's because they are supposed to witness the work done by the one and true living God. That's the whole purpose of why this even happened in the first place, that these people even had to go through what the Canaanites had to be destroyed. It was because the Israelites were supposed to be able to witness God's work, the one and true living God. This is him showing his power in who he is, because all other gods are fake. They're not real. And we can see that when God allows the Israelites, to defeat the Canaanites and take over Jericho. That land was promised to them. Even though that land was surrounded by heathen nations, they were not supposed to be influenced by those heathen nations and false gods and pagan religions. Okay. The Canaanites, they perverted God's truth, and they were the ones who were living in that land at the time. But they were all destroyed for their sins. And some of them, they weren't supposed to be spared, but we find out later on that a couple of them did get spared. And that's how the seed of, the pagan gods and all that stuff was able to even be born again, to pop back up. And that's where the return of the gods and stuff comes up, because there's a lot of fallen gods that we see them disappear and then they come back, because nothing's new under the sun. They just come back probably by a different name, but they were all supposed to be destroyed for that purpose, so that it wouldn't be able to come back. Kind of like when you think of like someone who has diabetes and they get like gangrene, they have to like sever that limb or whatever that is that has it, and so that the rest of the body doesn't get infected by that bacteria. Okay. So it's kind of like the same thing. That was like kind of like why God was even trying to destroy all those pagan Canaanite people in the first place. But the Israelites were instructed to get rid of everybody. All right. And they were disobedient, and they were disobedient as far as like destroying all the pagan people. And they were led into this eventually led into the Israelites being captives again later on in Judges. That part of the Bible, Judges. But the Canaanites knew of God, and they rejected him, and they lived sinful lives, and there weren't any of them to be spared, which is why God told the Israelites, to get rid of all of them. Okay. But yeah, God's will and his timing is different from ours. So his promises, they will be fulfilled if that's what he promised. And if he sees it fit for you, then he's going to fulfill it. So don't give up if something doesn't happen for you right away. Because God will protect you until it comes to pass. And God is not a man that he shall lie. So sometimes we need preparation before he can give us those things, so that we can have it for a long term and we don't end up losing it. So he has to like kind of train us. So that's why sometimes things don't just happen on our timing as fast as we want it to, because God's timing is different, where he is versus where we are, even though he's with us at all times. It's just his time is on his time. Okay. Because it works up for his glory, and he knows what's best. So that's when he gives it to us, when he feels that we're ready. So, I'm sharing this with you as far as like God keeping his promises and stuff, because it's my testimony. It's what I've seen in my own life. Plus I know this is a very important key. Once you pray for something, it's technically already yours, and the devil and his little minions, they know that. So that's why it's good to pray, because if something's for you, God's going to give it to you. If it's not for you, you'll know, because God won't give it to you. Okay. But just don't get caught up in that time period of when you're waiting and think that something's not coming. If God promised it to you and you got that feeling and then so just be patient. But once you're praying for something and it is within God's will, it's going to eventually come to you anyway. So it's already yours, and just make sure that you know that, because the devil knows that. So Use prayer to your advantage. Okay. I love you all, and please stay safe and leave a comment. Please like if you can. If you have time, go and like some of my older videos because I'm trying to get into the algorithm. I love y'all so much, and have a blessed day. Bye.